Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to have you here. Actually, we're so excited to have you here. I'm Todd Bookspan, certified exactly what to say guide, founder of Win by Noon, and I'm joined by my co-host, the founder of Plug and Play SM, and also an exactly what to say certified guide, Deborah Byrd. How you doing, Miss Byrd?
Hi, I'm good. It's Tuesday, the day after the solar eclipse. We all made it alive. I was like, why are all these people freaking out with make sure your car is filled with gas, that your batteries are charged? I'm like, we have had a solar eclipse before, right?
That's true. It's
Anyway,
been,
so,
it's been about as long since the Cowboys went to the playoffs.
oh my
But
gosh,
but that's not what we're
wow.
here to talk about today. So I think you all know who we were fortunate enough to have join us. And but let me just kind of give a quick background on Phil M. Jones. He's the author of the book Exactly What to Say, and not only has he sold almost 3 million copies, maybe just over that by now, but my favorite statistic about the book is that the average person who buys an Audible listens to it 0.3 times. They don't even get through it a third of the time. We've all done it, right? You bought that book and it wasn't very good. And the average person who purchases and downloads the Audible of Exactly What to Say listens to it on average of almost 8 times, which, I think people like me probably skew that number because it's been pretty phenomenal. But the other thing I really like to say is, having gotten to know Phil over this past year plus, is he's just such a bright business mind. And it was kind of funny when we were talking about this earlier, Deborah and I today, is we said, gosh, if we had just had you all on Zoom watching and listening to the conversation that the three of us had the other night, you would have been like, oh, that was amazing. And so our goal today is to really have a conversation and replicate what is going on. Real quick, before I bring on Phil, if you could just throw over into the chat. I think we're mainly all loan officers here, but let me know if you're a loan officer, real estate agent. If you're something different, let us know what that is that you do. But let's see what you guys all got. I think that'll really help us frame it up. But without further ado, welcome, Mr. Phil Jones. How are you, sir?
Hey, Todd, what a joy to be here with you both. This is fun.
I think so. I think so, right?
I
Well, I
believe
just
so.
appreciate, the time, and we were all texting back and forth. And, Phil, when you were like, how about I just do the webinar with you guys? I was like, I immediately sent Todd a text like, holy shit, can you believe it? Look what he just said. So thank
And
you for
you
your
jumped on it, and
time.
now here I am, right? Here we are to
Yeah.
chat with a group of what looks like almost all LOs, with Rachel, who's a sales manager, and Mike, who's a branch leader, and then someone from Maui as well, which is freaking awesome. So it looks like we got a mortgage-inspired group, which is what you asked for. That's what you said was going to show up.
Well, that was really it. I mean, our goal is to equip all of our industry, right? You're the industry that we know and love, and how can we have more impactful conversations with our real estate agents to support them, and really around with our clients as well? Because if we can have better conversations with our clients that support our real estate agents, then we know business will be a whole heck of a lot more fun as we go forward together.
I agree completely. I agree completely. Where do you want us to take it from here, Todd? Where do you want us to be able to lean in and be of the most support we can to this great group of people, of which we now have 343 with us that we want to be in service of today?
I joke because we have almost 800 who registered, and I said, okay, for loan officers, that was going to be about 400 who show up. So I think that's the over under. We're hoping that I'm sure more will make it as they get through their busy days, and maybe we can learn some other scripting and conversations that you can have to be more effective around your time, to make sure that when you have important opportunities like this, you are here. And so I think one of the things that was unique about the conversation that you said, Phil, was, hey, we should kind of have a conversation, almost a debate around all this and what's going on. What did you think when you said that? I mean, why did you say debate?
Well, I think if I look at the marketplace as an entirety right now, with everything that's going on around the NAR settlement, etc., is I'm seeing a lot of people give answers to questions they don't understand. And what do I mean by that? Is we have no understanding of how the consumers are going to react to the changes that are happening at this moment in time. And we haven't yet figured out exactly what the puzzle's going to look like in everybody's given marketplace. Yet the world and their wife are trying to show up and say, look, here is exactly what you should be saying around the NAR settlement. And if I see another person trying to sell a script book, I'm going to be like, geez, enough already, okay? And I understand that that's what people are wanting to have, is like, who can show me the easy button to this complex scenario that we're dealing with? But the easiest button that you can push is to just try to get in the mess. I remember when the professional speaking business was disrupted through the pandemic, And what happened in that time period is almost every professional speaker saw their book of business go from whatever it was to nothing overnight, right? And we had to send back deposits, and it was a pretty turbulent time for many. And during that same period of time, about a third of the speaking population decided that what they were going to try to do was to sell to the rest of the other speakers how they could be more effective in virtual platforms and how they needed to pivot and change. And I remember getting agitated to the professional speaking community as a whole. And I'm like, when people are drowning, please don't try to sell them swimming lessons. They don't need them now. What they need is you to get in the water with them with an inflatable and help get them to somewhere safe. And I think this is where consumers are going to be. It's where realtors are at right this moment in time. It's where many LOs are, is that we are drowning in the noise of all things NAR right now without having clarity of exactly what it's going to mean. And what we're really looking to be able to do is to get to some new safe land. And what happens when chaos presents itself is people want to get to order real quickly. But before you can get to order, you've got to clean up the chaos. And I think that's what our skill is in conversation right now, is to say, can we get clarity on what the obstacle is we're trying to solve before we start finding answers to the obstacle? And that's why I presented that we should probably have more of a debate, more of a discussion around what actually is the problem we're trying to solve. What are the challenges we know we're going to be walking into? And if we believe at EWTS that the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment when you're saying it, what are the moments that matter more than any of the other moments right now that we should be getting properly prepared for? Because much of what I see in the industry around this NAR thing right now is when somebody brings up a problem, somebody's got a script to tell them that they're wrong. We're actually creating chaos and argument within a marketplace that is looking for clarity. So I'm hoping that in our time together today, we can teach people how they can have bigger, better, bolder conversations with their real estate partners, with their consumers as a whole, and help not to just provide information, but to genuinely educate the marketplace about how these changes are going to impact them and why that matters, which is different for different groups of people. So there's a long answer to a short question.
Well, and I want to invite everyone who's on this webinar, like this is a discussion that we all get to have with Phil, not just Todd and I. So I'd love to kind of start with those who are on to put in the chat, like, what do you see is the obstacle? Since we're going to start, getting clarity on the obstacle that we're trying to solve. Well, what is that obstacle? What do you believe that it is from your point of view, or from the conversations that you're having in the market center with where you serve people today? And that could be your clients or your agent partners. So it's kind of see fear of the unknown, buyers not having a choice in representation, fear from lack of info on the agent side, media. Okay.
I see lots of smart names that are here alongside of us. So thank you all for being here.
I'm just trying to follow these as well.
I think some of the conversations that I've heard just, even from like my niece and the general public is, one, it was very interesting. I was at my daughter's volleyball tournament this weekend, and there was a parent there who said that they were getting things in the mail about, was your agent with this brokerage, or this brokerage, because you could sue. And I thought, wow, we've already gotten to that point. And then my niece, who is looking to buy, she was like, should we wait till July so that we don't pay a buyer's agent commission? So it's definitely things, are popping up in people's heads, and, who are they asking those questions to, and where do they go to get that information, is just some of the things that I've heard. Todd, anything you want to add to that?
I'm just laughing because Keith Collins said nothing has actually changed, but yet it has.
Mm-hmm. And a lot has changed, though, because consumers have had increased levels of visibility around how real estate agents are getting paid. And what the chaos creates is it creates confusion within a marketplace. That confusion is then people looking for answers, and now there's misinformation at scale. So there is no way on earth that anybody involved in the house buying process is not going to bring up in some way, shape, or form, how do you earn your money? and how does this work? And my belief, I think, that is missing from almost everybody's training right now around NAR stuff is nobody's deciding the moment they're going to actually start talking about this with their customers. So if you want to understand how can you be more valuable even to a real estate partner, is what about just having conversations with them about how are their conversations on the buy side going to change? At what point are they deciding that they are going to bring up how they earn their money to a consumer? Are they doing it when they receive somebody's inquiry that they want to see 123 Main Street? Are they doing it when they're at the threshold of the first home they're going to walk through? Are they doing it when they step out of the first home that they've been at? Like, at what point? Because the miss for most realtors is they've never had to have a moment where they have this conversation. It just kind of gets absorbed into the fantastic service they provide for what is often perceived to be no fee. They haven't decided the precise moment that they're actually going to articulate their value. Give consideration to this like a restaurant, right? Some restaurants you pay before you order. Some restaurants you order your food, they provide you great service, they give you an indication of what the prices are going to be, and you pay at the end. Other restaurants say you can pay a fixed fee and eat as much as you like. Other restaurants say that everything you order off the menu is going to be added to your bill. Some expect high levels of gratuity, others are quite happy for you to pay none. This is what the marketplace is demanding from the real estate industry. Is they're saying that we want to have an open market. Yet what the real estate industry is trying to be able to do is to say, no, 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 we still want it all be the same. Where the real problem that was being addressed with the lawsuit was nothing to do with the buyer's agent agreement being signed. It was about consumers understanding they had choice. So what this means is that you have to decide to choose what place you have in the market. So if I was a loan originator right now, before I got busy on any work, I'd just ask myself two questions. The two questions that I would ask are, number one, who are the people you're looking to help? And number two, what are the challenges or problems you're looking to try and help those people overcome? The miss we've had in both the real estate and the mortgage industry is the consumer has believed that all real estate agents are equal and all LOs are equal. En masse, that's what consumers have believed. We've now got a chance to be able to change that, but only if we know the answer to those questions. Who are the people you're looking to try and help, and what are the problems you're trying to solve for them? If you don't know the answer to those questions, you believe that what you should be doing right now is writing your value proposition. And what you do to write your value proposition is you write a giant list of as many things as humanly possible as to what somebody could potentially believe is valuable about the services you provide. If you do this, you prove that you are not worth your money. Here's why. Because when somebody looks at that list, that giant list that you built, they realize that many of the things on that list are not valuable to them. Therefore, they don't want to pay your full fee because they don't appreciate your full service. Value isn't something you give. Value is something they get. Value is only valuable where it's appreciated and it's appreciating. Let me say that again. Value is only valuable where it is appreciated and it is appreciating. What do I mean by that? Where the other person finds it valuable in the moment and that value continues to rise over a period of time. That's what makes you valuable. So even sit for a second right now and think as an LO, who are the people you're looking to help and what are the puzzles you're trying to solve for them? Well, let's look at some of the puzzles that are going to be coming down the pipe. It's almost certain that a number of low-income households are going to be petrified about the fact that they might have to pay out of pocket for real estate services.
100%.
It's definitely happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same with VA and any of these other specific niche groups where people are giving consideration that normally they would be a low money down transaction and as little out of pocket as possible. I'd be looking to say, how do you help those people overcome those challenges? And this is how you're going to start to build a value proposition, because you're going to build specific value propositions, not a one-size-fits-all value prop. How are you looking to help move up buyers, release the equity from their homes so that they can have the strongest buying position when they're stepping into home number two? How are you helping first-time buyers? Now, I'd be getting into this mess with the real estate professionals you work with, not trying to tell them you've got their back. Is physically get into the mess with them and help strengthen both your backs together by saying, who are the people that you're working with most right now? Who are the people that you'd like to be working with more in the future? What are the potential problems that they may have? You know the answer to those two questions, you can start to build positioning and packaging statements about how your value can be supportive of those. And without that, we're shooting in the dark.
I think the challenge is and I don't want to, make any eye contact with anyone who I can't see because it's just the two of you I can see. But oftentimes in the loan industry, right, well, first off, we all want that magic pill script, right? And what I learned when I went to the certification with you for 2 days in New York is it's really how to have there's a process to having better conversations that starts with curiosity.
Yeah.
And then I think that we all, right, we assume we've got that magic pill to solve the problem for the client before we actually understand that problem. So I think that's why this is a great question for us to start with, because ultimately in the end, I think we got the best of the best on this call. And because we're so good, we just want to throw up everyone and tell them how great we are. And what I've really learned from you is that actually all the more reason I actually need to slow way down, get way more curious, ask way more questions, become an expert with all the magic words in the workbook, but also more importantly, the phrase or in the book, but more importantly, the stuff that we learned from the workbook that we got by being at the certification. And so that's kind of where I'm kind of back on my heels now thinking.
Yeah, and in the medical industry, they say that prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. I mean, how would you feel walking into a doctor's surgery and they said, I'm glad you showed up today. The pharmaceutical rep told me about these great new pills. Pop 2 of these a day, you'd feel awesome. Most of you would be a little nervous about just popping those pills. There's at least 3 people on here that are like, yeah, I'm game. Sure. Sounds awesome. But most of you would have questions and pushback on this. In an environment of chaos, which is what we're in right now, is slow things down, look to create new order by being organizational in the questions that you are asking of others. And what we're looking to be able to say is, because of the fact that you said blank, blank, and blank, for those reasons, what I'd recommend is blank, blank, and blank. So what does that look like? It means that you've got to be asking more strategically curious questions of the agents and consumers you're looking to try and help. Even if you were to ask the last 3 to 5 clients that you've worked with, what impact would it make if you were to need to pay your real estate fees out of your own pocket? Would that be something you could do, or would that be something you'd need help from us? Hey, help me understand your understanding of how your real estate agent got paid in the last transaction. Based on the experience that you've received from them, would you describe them as worth it, more than worth it, or less than worth it? See, if you can arm yourself with that kind of information, when you're showing up to your real estate partners, you can say, I spoke to 35 homeowners in the last 12 months that had mortgages through me. And what I found most interesting is 28 of the 35 people described their real estate agent as worth less than the sum of money they provided. So how are you taking steps to stand out so that your customers see you as being worth every dime? If you did that work, you'd have the ability to be able to stand out. Instead, what we try to do is we say, no, it's all good. I can just put some sticky tape over all of this and it'll be back towards normal and everything will be fine. But the exercise I'd invite people to put into in their own time, particularly the LOs on here, is come back to those 2 questions. Who are the people you're looking to help? What are the problems you're trying to solve for? Be specific on the people, and then be specific on the challenges that you can help them overcome. So how are you helping first-time buyers right now? You see how this starts to be able to change and shape the value that you're looking to be able to provide. And what's most beautiful here is if you don't know all the answers to this question, here's a chance to be able to get into the mess with your real estate partners, saying, I've been thinking a lot recently about the impact the changes of the NAR settlement are going to be having on first-time buyers. And they're like, me too. And I wondered how open you would be, or how open-minded you would be, for us to find 30 minutes to sit down together to see if we can strategize about building a unique value proposition that can help us dominate first-time buyers together this year. They're like, yeah, I'm up for that. Instead, what are most mortgage companies doing right now in their real estate conversations? What they're doing is they're having a version of the "it's not fair" conversation. And I remember this specifically when Uber entered the marketplace. And when Uber entered the marketplace, what happened is the taxi private minicab industry all went up in arms and was like, this isn't fair. It's just not fair. And they would argue amongst themselves about how unfair this was. All the time, Uber were just slowly building their business. And I want you to remember that Uber didn't decide that they were going to take such a big market share in the industry. They didn't decide. The consumer decided. Because the consumer said, for a ridiculous period of time, it is entirely unrealistic for me to not know when this car might get to me. Right? Because you book a minicab for 10 a.m. for your ride towards the airport towards tomorrow. And what happens is it's 9:55 and you're like, are they going to be here on time today or not? And you get to 10:05 a.m. and what you do is you're then calling them and they tell you they're just around the corner. And 28 minutes later, the minicab arrives. You then get into the minicab and they say, where are you going? And you say, well, I've told you this already. But you still tell them again. They say, which way would you like to go? You said, that's freaking your job. Well, you don't actually say that. You just tell them politely what you believe is going to be the most appropriate route to be able to get there. And then when they finally get you to the destination, you would say, or they'd say to you that was $45, and you'd give them a credit card and they say cash only. You think, dang, and you rustle around in your bag for the next period of time to try and find the cash for the only person that ever needed the cash. Find the only $100 bill that you had in your purse or your bag or your wallet, and you hand them the $100 bill, and they now say, no, sorry, I got no change. And that was the experience you had from a minicab service. And then when Uber show up, the minicab business said that this is not fair, that these people are stealing our lunch. This is the exact same place that we're in the real estate business right now. The consumer deserves better. And everybody is fighting and saying, well, it's not fair that people are going to steal my money. Whereas my rally cry would be is to show the consumers that are worth it, that you are worth your money. What is interesting is all the time the rest of the world minicab industry was losing its marbles, there was some taxis in a little known city called London. And the black taxis, the black cabs in London didn't lose their mind over the fact that Uber had shown up. They kind of shrugged their shoulders and laughed at them a little. They take an exam called the Knowledge that means that they know London inside out and can help you navigate based on what they've learned in the top of their head. They are floating concierges that can give you advice and guidance about where you might want to eat, where you might want to go. They'll provide you stories and insights about the buildings, etc., that you're passing along the way. They have ease of access regardless of what mobility needs you had. The only thing that the London taxis had to change is you can now pay by credit card. That was it. But they had a value proposition that was stronger that allowed them to be able to differentiate. And I think this is much of what, as real estate professionals and loan originators, you need to do this work now. It's inward-facing work to help understand who are the people you're looking to serve, what are the problems you're trying to solve for them, and why are you the best positioned person to be able to help those people solve those problems. So not much to do with scripts yet, right?
That's how it always works with you, Bill.
But I think because of this mess, and that's why skills that we teach in our certification programs, etc., I think are so useful. Because your real estate partners are going to want the easy button. You want to give them the easy button. You want to show them how valuable that you can be. And you're not going to be able to do it unless you can find a way to be able to get a seat at the table with them and help them realize, and you realize, that you need to reorder your menu. You need to rewrite your recipe of what help looks like right now. And if you can collaborate and rewrite that recipe together, that's how you're going to win together. think the first thing that we focus in on in a certification program is that point that the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment where you're saying it. Hyper focus on the word moment. You're going to be showing up to your real estate partners right now looking to be helpful, and you're going to say things like, if there's anything I can do to help, please don't hesitate to ask. Have you ever been going through a moment of grief in your life where somebody asks you that question? Because it's not very helpful, is it?
Nope, it's a job.
Yeah, they're asking you to solve their problem for them. It's like not right. What we should be doing by alternative is being helpful. That's the job that we should be looking to be able to get into. So simple words that we can lift from our certification program would be the words like, help me understand. Help me understand how you're preparing for the changes and what you see that you might need to do differently as we step into Q2, Q3, Q4 of this year. Help me understand. And now let your real estate partner educate you. Because you know what they might say? Well, I haven't really figured it out yet. Well, what do you understand about what your options are to be able to present your services differently at this period of time? They're like, not much. You say, well, what is your experience of navigating changes like this in other industries? They might share some thoughts with you. And then you might say, well, would it help if I walked you through some of the ways that the mortgage industry is preparing for the changes and can help equip you with some of the alternative programs and some of the unique solutions that we've put together to be able to help the kind of people that you're serving overcome some of the potential obstacles that they might be finding themselves in? They're like, yeah, that would be super helpful. Before we get into that, just where do you see as the moment that you're going to start introducing our services to your future buyers so that we can help strengthen your value proposition and help you stand out in the market more effectively? You see how that starts to change things too? If I'm an LO right now, I can be inviting every real estate professional I work with to give thoughtful thought to where is the right moment for us to be able to make a mutual acquaintance towards the people we're looking to help buy and sell their houses. But it can't be, well, look, if you've got any clients that you think I can help with, please don't hesitate to contact me. It's more assumptive than that. It's wherever you thought about the right moment is for us to be able to make introductions to people together so that we can both strengthen each other's value proposition in a market as competitive as the one that we're in right now. But I see Todd and Deb smiling here because you're seeing me just play the notes that we teach in the certification program just around a new environment, right? That's why I see that you're not longer smiling, is that this is just using the method that we teach.
I'm waiting for Deb to jump in. Your turn, Jeb.
Well, I'm processing all of this, and I think one thing that we haven't talked about that I feel like is kind of a root cause to this is helping our agent partners actually be more valuable. Like they're all doing the same things, or let's face it, they didn't really have to be that great.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to any that are on the call, and a lot of them too would get used. Like they didn't get paid until the very end, and you're hopeful that they actually found a home. Not only did they find one that they liked, that they finally won an offer, and then there was finally an inspection that went and it passed and everything was okay, and then it appraised. Like there's a lot of things that buyer's agents were put through, and I think it's why so many start off as a buyer's agent instead of a listing agent. And also why so many probably don't make it is because you do a lot of freaking work before you ever get paid. So it's one, I think it'll be helpful where if we can help provide more value and have these conversations much sooner and quicker, but also helping our partners think outside the box. Like we should be doing more. We should have always been doing more, in my opinion, for some of the commissions. Like when you look at the amounts that they do earn, I mean, it's been really easy for them. So I think looking at it from like a team lead standpoint and, how do we retain the people that we have? Because there's some that are freaking out and some that are thinking, oh, are we all just going to have to be listing agents? But also going deeper beyond just the transaction of, for someone like myself, I would have paid more if someone would pack my stuff, unpack, decorate, like, clean my house. I don't want to be there for any showings. I've got 4 kids. I got a crazy life. So I think sometimes we always assume that everyone's going to want the cheapest option, but there are people out there who wouldn't. They would actually pay more for convenience and certainty.
I'm going to share a thought that is a little controversial around just remuneration in real estate in general. And to me, it is sacrilege that a buyer's agent is trying to build an argument that they work for the buyer, yet their income is in direct correlation to a percentage of the purchase price of the home. i.e., I get paid more if I cost you more money, yet I have a duty of care to be able to support you, Mr. and Mrs. Customer. It's a miss. So what it actually says is that there are now just 2 types of buyer's agents out there. There's a buyer's agent that actually is a commission-only salesperson for the listing agent. And there should be a buyer's agent out there that is a true representative of the buyer, i.e. has a value prop that says, here's what you pay me for my service, regardless of any alternative commissions are available on the listing side. And the only way you're going to win the argument that you are truly representing the buyer is if you build a comp plan that is in direct correlation to the needs of what that buyer is looking for and a list of valuable services that that buyer might find useful. And that might mean a lot of buyer's agents have to completely reinvent what their service offering is. They might have to provide levels of service at different levels of fee in order to be able to support their clients. I've been proposing a model to the real estate industry for over 2 years of how I believe buyer's agents can better articulate their value. And this would help the LO industry if we can get it into place. Is I believe that there are certain markets where the buyer should pay an upfront fee to their agent for a consultation with an agreed level of service of what they get for that upfront fee. They should then pay a monthly retainer for the ongoing service that they provide from that buyer's agent. And they should then pay a success fee upon the achieving of the promise of finding them their home. Payment split in 3 parts. Now, if I can get the consumer to pay me an upfront fee, if I can get the consumer to pay a monthly fee, we're now not worried about this giant balloon sum of money that is in the closing statement that we're wondering who's going to pay for, because actually they've paid some of the money over a period of time. What can a buyer's agent now do? Put money in their pocket straight away, get paid for the work they're doing, regardless of whether it makes the closing table. Because arguments like, I work for hours for free for other people, means that you should pay me an excessive sum of money, is not a very consumer-focused argument. It's because I do tons of work for free, you need to pay me an obnoxious sum. It should be that you are paying me for a value of the service I provide. And I think having some of these kind of conversations with buyer's agents is useful to have right now. Is what does your shop front look like? Are you Chewy's or are you Ruth Chris? Is this a true concierge service with a guaranteed boutique level of offering? Because I find it fascinating now that consumers reach out to agents asking them for what they believe is favors for what I believe are actually just things that are part of their job. Like, is there any chance that you could maybe go see this property for me on my behalf at some point while I'm out of town and maybe take some photographs for me? I mean, I'd be so, I don't want to trouble you in any way, shape or form. So consumers are currently asking buyer's agents to do their job like they're asking them for a favor. The exciting thing becomes is if you present the things that you know that people want into your upfront value proposition, then people are going to be like, this is awesome. And there isn't an industry in the land that people aren't happy to pay a premium fee for a premium level of service. So we're about to enter the Wild West. And I think if you can help people navigate the role they're going to play in the new Wild Western, then you'll be insanely useful to them.
All right, so you've been talking about this for 2 years. What kind of feedback do you get from the real estate industry, Phil? I'm dying to know.
Well, they hate change, right? They hate change. And they say things like, well, people won't want to pay an upfront fee. I'm like, are you sure? Because these models exist in other areas and work just fine. Having been on the buy side of many transactions on homes that I purchased myself, I would have been very happy to pay an upfront fee for a guaranteed level of service. Instead, what you've got is you've got an uncommitted level of service on the buy side. You've got somebody who may be helpful that then chases you like, do you want to make an offer and am I going to get paid off you? As opposed to actually shows a genuine interest on what you're looking to be able to achieve. And I get pushback where people say things like, there's no way that people would pay a retainer. I'm like, are you sure? I think market to market, this model could work everywhere. I said 3 types of numbers. I never said what those numbers would be. So if you're in a market where the average sales price is $150,000, your upfront fee might be $195. Your monthly retainer might be $49. You might have a guaranteed, when we find you a house, you pay me $1,500. You could position this that this is like it's less than the 2.5–3% you might have paid in an alternative way, but more often than not, it adds up to more. And if you're in a luxury market where the average price point is $5, $6, $7, $8, $9 million, you get a chance to differentiate versus everyone else that is just hedging their bets against a percentage on the purchase price, where you can say, hey, work with me. And what we provide you is a detailed buyer's consultation, give you access to a number of off-market things. But to work with us, well, firstly, there's a registration fee, and that registration fee is $7,500. And for all the months that we're working together, there's $1,000 a month retainer, and for that we do this and 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 this. And then once we find you a home, instead of paying that obnoxious percentage like somebody else is asking you to pay, then there's just a success fee that we're both chasing of X amount of dollars. It's actually easier to sell a service when you put a price on it. It's harder when you've got delayed gratification, because the consumer's saying, where's the catch? Where's the catch? Where's the catch? Where's the catch? I don't understand where the catch is. Tell people where the catch is, and they're like, that makes sense.
So a lot of loan officers are saying there's just no way this could ever happen. But I met a loan officer last month who actually meets with all his clients face to face, and he charges a $495 fee to all of his clients. They have to get an intent to proceed, and he has to offer it to all of his clients in order for it to be legal according to his company's compliance. But I've heard other companies say that would be the same way. And oh, by the way, on top of that, almost no price exceptions. In fact, he maybe even said no price exceptions. Oh, and by the way, on top of that, he verified another friend in the room who's in the same market that he has a significantly higher rate sheet than the other client. And so when we all say we can't do it, what Phil said earlier that I wrote down was the consumer deserves better. Show you're worth the money. And this is a loan officer who's shown he's worth the money, and it blew my mind. And so when I hear Phil talk about this, I was so glad you brought it up, is because my original thing was, oh, I couldn't do this. I couldn't imagine loan officers doing this. And then I met someone who did it and does it at a super high level, super successfully. And guess what? His business was up last year too. And guess what? He's training other loan officers in his office, and they're all replicating with the same experience that he has. And so anytime we have this disruption, I think it's a great opportunity. And that's why I love this, that it was going to become a conversation.
Look at the whole thing, right? And pull out a blank sheet of paper and say, if I'm in the business of helping people purchase homes today, what do they really want? And it's probably different than what we've always been doing. We just got into a routine and a habit that says, here's how we always do things. So the fact that it's being put under the microscope, then zoom out, put the consumer at the front of it. And I'm not saying that what I've suggested there is the only way it could work. I'm saying that's an alternative level of model of service that could provide a hands-on approach that could allow a buyer's agent to get paid at every point. The biggest objection and point of friction to a program like that running is the operations inside a big brokerage. They're just not built to be able to compensate themselves through a model in that nature. So that's why they resist it. However, I think consumers would quite like it. And if you're looking for a model on this, there's a boutique buyers agency in the UK called Garrisons that I consult to that do exactly this in an open market in UK housing. They charge a premium fee on top of what anybody else would, and they help people find difficult to reach houses, or they help high net worth individuals source homes that don't have the ability to go tour stuff by themselves. Pay a significant premium for being able to do so. So the clues are out there. And if you're wondering about how other industries have navigated this, I would say a great example is to look at the financial services industry. And the financial services industry in the UK and then later in the US went through a huge amount of change with transparency and commissions. So historically, if somebody was a life insurance, protection, investment specialist, they'd make all of their money in commissions of recommending products, and they'd present their services to the consumer like they were free, and then to get upfront commissions and trail commissions off the back of the products they would recommend without any disclosure that was required to be able to present towards the customer. Then what happened is people said that's really not fair, because people were given bias on the products they would recommend based on the compensation they would achieve. So what was ordered is that they had to give full disclosure to what they were being compensated on products, had to be delivered up front, had to get a signed for agreement up front that the customers would know that that's what they were getting into. So do you know what many brokerages moved to? They moved to flat fee for service and said any commissions that are created get kicked back into your investments or returned to you for credit. But others have said, well, we'll play no win, no fee. We'll play the, you don't pay us a penny, but we get paid on the products we recommend, and you're going to see on the paperwork just how much money we get paid, provided we provide a product that fits for you. But I have to give you an explanation of benefits of why we picked this one and not this one, and this one and not this one, and show you what both of those options would have earned, me as well as you. Created fair and open market. We're going to see that happen here in real estate, and I don't get to decide. You don't get to decide. The consumer decides. And it means that there are going to be some consumers that are looking for a showing agent that's just going to open doors and they want to pay a low fee for it. Some are looking for full service levels of boutique. If I find the house myself and I'm going to walk through the door myself and I'm going to pay cash for the transaction, and I'm a long-term contractor and I'm going to pull this down to the studs and then I'm going to rebuild it, how much of your value proposition as a real estate agent is relevant to me in those circumstances? So if you don't decide who the people you're looking to serve and what the problems you're going to solve for them, you're going to find that a large percentage of your value prop is irrelevant for the people you're looking to try and work with. And a one-size-fits-all approach is probably not going to work. So let's just give a real simple thing that could be focused on here for the mortgage industry in particular. Forever and ever and ever and ever, a giant part of your value prop to realtors is how quick you can do a pre-approval and the quality of your pre-approvals. And so much so that it's become transactional. In our world at EWTS, we talk a lot about simple swaps, how a subtle change in language can make a profound difference. I believe that every word that leaves your mouth is helping or hurting, and nothing is neutral. Let me repeat, every word that leaves your mouth is helping or hurting, nothing is neutral. That means if it is neutral, it's a waste. Shouldn't be there. Everybody will provide pre-approvals. If buyer's agents are looking to demonstrate their value more effectively and they are working with a very specific group of people, how could you rename what your current pre-approval is so it sounds like it's more valuable to those people with those problems? Because there are steps that could now be existing those people far more effectively. Think about a first-time buyer. They don't necessarily just want a pre-approval. They might want to understand the landscape of options where it comes to lending, and that you provide a home ownership financial consultation on behalf of the buyer's agent that not only delivers them a pre-approval so they're in a strong position from a buying power point of view, but they also understand the multiple different levels of types of loan products that are available to them that can support either reduced monthly expenses or growth in capital appreciation through excessive buy down, or that they can get a greater understanding of the landscape of all the financial products that are available to them. However, if it's a move-up buyer, they might not want a pre-approval. They might want to understand the pros and cons of multiple different methods. So I would try and ban the word pre-approval. Can you add specificity that shows that you know the people you're looking to help and the problems you're trying to solve for them, and repackage your pre-approval process so that it sounds sexier and more valuable to the buyer's agents that you support, and watch how they'll choose you as opposed to somebody other than you because you're doing something demonstrably different that feels fit for purpose in the market.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind for me is certainty, right? I think that that's what people want, and they often get surprised at the end, right? All of you loan officers are thinking that, right? They've all gotten that online approval, and that online approval wasn't really an approval because the processor or someone didn't actually look at any documentation till weeks or months down the road, and then they're like, oh, surprise, actually, I can't use that other second job that you got last month, and the loan officer or quote unquote loan consultant never looked at it. So think through. Right. I mean, I love this, Phil, and I think that's one of the values. It's going to sound really maybe trite, but the fact that you have seen business not just in the US, but all over the world, to understand that these models, we all just have such a narrow focus on how we've always seen business done. And I think this is where this huge opportunity for us is. And even just something as basic as changing the simple swap of what we call a pre-approval letter can be a game changer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I see some examples here of things like strategy sessions, etc. And just remember that unless you think about who are the people you're looking to help and what are the problems you're trying to solve for them, we're trying to create a vanilla ice cream answer to a more complex question than that. Like, what's your favorite ice cream is rarely going to say vanilla, right? Most of us have a level of specificity that we'd look for. We'd all take vanilla ice cream. But a first-time buyer might not want a strategy session. That might feel like it's overwhelming. Somebody that's going through a refinance of their investment portfolio might want a strategy session. So look to be able to make your language fit the person and the problem. And you'll find that people will take it differently. And I don't want to give an answer to this question because I think this is your chance to be playful and show your own brand representation, show what you stand for with some of the ways that you package and position much of what you've always done as the same. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to change a great deal about what you're going to do. You're just changing the way you talk about it.
So Deborah's getting ready to go jump off in a few minutes because she's got to put on her social media cape and go out there and educate a large crew. But I think we would be remiss before you left, Deborah, if we didn't real quick talk about or exactly what to say. It'll be primarily mortgage folks there, but I know we probably have some real estate agents there. So it'll be a really fun 2-day experience where we're really going to dig deep on this stuff. How would you set that up for everyone?
Well, so I'm going to put the link in the chat so that people can sign up directly if it's something that you're interested in, or if you want to just DM us, you can on social media and just start the conversation of what a certification looks like. But I would recommend inviting an agent partner with you. I think that was probably what was most powerful when we did it with Phil in New York is, you know, we had all different kinds of industries in the room and just putting all of our minds together for an intimate, you know, like the max amount of people is 18. So it really allows you to have a big, tiny event. I think that's what you call it, Phil.
Yeah,
and just
tiny, massive event.
Yeah, and just to have the conversations back and forth and really grow together. And then it allows you to take this knowledge and these new principles and kind of framework with you to every conversation that you have moving forward, not just with your partners, but with, you know, your family, your children, your boss, your teammates. And so, you know, I feel like the work that we do is just so important. It's always been important, but especially right now, helping people identify like what are those critical moments that we're trying to be more influential in. And oftentimes, as much as we think it's about knowing exactly what to say, it's more understanding the how, the what, the when. And you can't really learn that by just reading the book. It's going to a certification where then you take the words and you understand how to use them in the moments that in the conversations that again matter most. So Todd's put on the screen a QR code that you guys can snap a picture of. Again, it's also in our link trees on social media. We are doing an early special for those who showed up on this call to get $550 off if you use the code EB24.
Just so you know, Deb, for one reason or another, your link tree link is not opening.
I'm wondering if it looks like the QR code is cut off at the bottom a little bit. So I'm wondering if that's part of it too.
He blurred the QR code. It was like a QR, like almost a QR, not a full R.
Well, we better get rid of that. So then just DM Deborah or I certification and we'll get you the correct code.
Deborah's punched the link in there as well in the chat for you. And I know Deb needs to bounce, so we can let her go. But I'll give some reasons as to why you should give consideration to joining Todd and Deb's certification event. And I think you might have seen from me sometimes that we can come up with examples real quick on the fly. It isn't about having the ability to come up with examples real quick on the fly. It's about having method. The only two ways I know how to teach this work is one in a tiny little book or in a short keynote, or two is an elongated program that is spaced out over a period of time to help you be able to build on the knowledge. And if I was to put an analogy on it, is if you want to learn to play music, you firstly got to know each of the notes, and then you've got to know how to put the notes together to form a scale, and only then can you start to play jazz. And what people are looking for in conversational frameworks and scripting, etc., is like, just give me the jazz. And I'd rather say, well, let's teach you the notes and then help empower you to be able to go write your own music. And that's what you learn in a certification event. There's process and method plus time to play. And some of you are asking about online courses, and I'll share my view on this. There's a big reason why we don't have online courses around conversational based training. Is conversations are two-way. Online courses are one-way communications. And the number one reasons that most scripts don't work is because the other person didn't know their lines, right? They weren't told what they were supposed to say. So the reason we do these events immersive and in person and in small groups is to allow for that interactivity, allow for the space of both parts of those conversations to happen, which is why it's great that Todd and Deb have put time and space together just for people in this industry to help you go deeper on the work, so you can go write your own recipes in your own style and develop your own scripts that support you in your own world. And Todd, I'm pumped that you managed to do this for the industry as a whole. And good news is Annette is saying that the link is working just fine. So possible.
All right, well,
use
that's
it.
good. I'm going to throw in my own link, which is just toddbookspan.me. But I'll throw in the direct link to my link tree. If anyone's having troubles with Deb's link, it'll get you there. There's a link there. You know, it was fun, Phil, because when we did, we did a couple of them last year. The first one we had all mortgage people and some financial advisors who were into infinite banking. So it was a lot of fun to bounce back and forth between the two different industries and have the conversation. And I really feel like now more than ever, this is going to be such a valuable conversation to continue what we talked about here for an hour today, but really sit down for 2 days and really roll up our sleeves and really get good at the curiosity piece of it in order to help answer these questions. Because really what I've written down today are the questions and the statements that you've made with regards to how we need to be better and how our realtors potentially need to be better. But if I can get better, I can help them be better. And wouldn't it be great if we're all better together?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'm going to just pick up on something I saw here in the chat, is where people are still saying things that, wouldn't the consumer just rather that the seller paid this at the closing table, like the same way that it's always done? Is a view that I have on the commissions piece is the seller never paid the commissions. The buyer always paid the commissions. The seller just laundered the money. Right, like that's what happened. Is the buyer was paying for it regardless within the purchase price. The issue in the NAR settlement, though, was that consumers believing they didn't have choice. So if you are still only providing your consumers with one choice, we didn't solve the problem of consumers believing they didn't have choice. If you can help your real estate agents build out a value proposition that is a fee-for-service value proposition on the buy side, and say that there's an alternative option that says, I'll work with you in this way and we'll put everything on the back of the fact that it's going to be paid by the seller, or if not, we'll find another creative way of being able to pay for it. It allows you to be able to have the money conversation more freely. You're still saying, these are the services I provide and this is what I'm asking you to pay for these services. And there are multiple ways that you could pay for it. You could pay for it upfront and out of your own pocket. You could pay for it on the upfront fee, monthly retainer part on closing. Or if they want to share in the risk with you, is you can put it in the way that it's been done previously. And this is how it works. But the fact that you're talking to people about the fact that they have options is what's going to allow you to have more meaningful conversations. And we teach a piece in our program where we will invite people to share that they have 3 options. But in a certification program, we'll teach you how you can give people 3 options and decide which one you'd like them to pick. The very precise one you'd like them to pick, just based on how you sequence those options and how you package those options. And I'm sure that you've heard that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. You've probably heard that saying before.
Absolutely.
I'm here today to tell you that you can make it drink if you put enough salt in the oats. If you salt the oats, you make a very thirsty horse. That horse will drink. And much of what we teach around language is how what you can do is salt the oats in a way with enough curiosity, enough empathy, and enough courage to mean that people are going to drive alternative actions. And it's your ability to get into that mess with the people you're looking to influence that will have you not just offering to be valuable, but genuinely being valuable to the people you're looking to serve.
So I definitely think, Phil, we turned it into a debate. I think people got a little frustrated with some of the things that were thrown around. So how do we put a bow on it, right? I want to respect everyone's time. We got 5 minutes till the top of the hour, and I know you've got to jump.
Yeah, I mean, we could hit specific questions if anything's here in the chat. If somebody's like, yeah, but what about, like, or what do you say with this quickly? Can happily do that. Or if you've got an alternative idea, I'm good for that. But I'm watching the chat in case anything inspires us.
I got one where someone more or less kind of gave the thing where someone agreed up front that they'll pay the 3% commission. And then they said, well, if I agree to that, what happens if in 2 months my friend calls me and says, hey, I'll just sell you my house directly. And now this person's got a contract that says they have to pay this 3% commission. I think that's what a lot of people are worried about. They're going to sign, they can't cancel, and then they found some other property on their own.
I think something that needs to be explored is the enforceability of any of these contracts in the first place. Because my experience generally is if somebody doesn't want to pay something, they're going to find a way to not pay it, regardless of what it said on the paper. So the puzzle isn't, well, what if my friend calls and says, I want to be able to sell the house to me directly? I think what we're looking to be able to get to is to help somebody realize that the service you're providing to them is worth it and some, so that they're happy to be able to pay you the fee regardless of what the outcome is, whether it's they buy their friend's house or whether they buy any other house, is what it is that they're looking to be able to do. So you've got to be clear on what value they get from you through that whole duration. So we just even play that out. So, okay, so your friend wants to sell you their house directly. She's like, well, not necessarily, but what if they did? Well, how likely is that to happen? Well, it's probably not that likely. So why are we spending a chunk of time discussing a highly unlikely scenario? I guess that's a fair point. But it sounds to me what you're actually asking is, how certain are you that this relationship between you and I is valuable regardless? Yeah, I guess that's what I'm asking. Well, what is your experience of everything it takes to be able to purchase a home in this kind of market? Well, not much. Well, what do you understand about all the steps that are involved in making sure that you get the right house, you don't pay more than you need to for it, and not only do you get to the closing table, you get to the closing table with terms that are agreeable to you? Well, I guess not much. You say, well, would it help if I walk you through all of the service that would provide somebody in your unique circumstances through this entire process, whether it's a house that we find from things like Zillow or any other online searches, whether it's a house we find because one of us knocks on a door, or whether it's a house that a friend of yours currently owns that reaches out to you to say that you might like to buy it? They're like, yeah, that would be helpful. And now what you can do is walk through all the things that you do to be able to support them in the buying process with permission. And then you could say, well, what do you understand about the potential consequences of self-representation in making a purchase as significant as this through like a friend or family member? Well, not much. Well, would it help if I walked you through what may or might or could happen if you were to enter into a transaction like that without accurate representation? They're like, yeah, I would. And then we go through all of that, and then I might get to the end of that and say, explain to me again, why were you thinking about not working with a realtor? No, I wasn't. I just wanted to understand that this was definitely worth it regardless. Hey, can I remind you one more thing? Is based on the terms of this agreement, the only way I'm going to get paid is by finding you a house that you're happy with. Are you looking to find a house that you're happy with? Yes, I am. To find a house that you're happy with, are you happy to be able to provide 3% of that transaction back in compensation to the person that helped make that reality for you? Yes, I am. Does it matter whether we find the house from a friend or family member, or whether we find it from the MLS, or whether we find it from our outbound marketing activities? No, not really. So all that matters most is we find a house for you that's right for you. Yes, it is. And you believe that to help you with that, you're happy to pay me 3%? Yes, I am. Great.
Boom, right? So you're all thinking, gosh, wouldn't it be awesome if I could do that too? And, you know, I can tell you that none of us are Phil Jones. However, I would tell you that the conversations I hear from the folks who've been through our certification is that they are making progress to being better at being able to have those types of conversations. One other resource I'll throw out there is for those of you who bought a pass for the Modern Mortgage and Modern Real Estate Summits, Carrie Scholl did a conversation in there that talked about how she has a cancellation agreement. I won't bore you with the details now, but you can go back and watch that again in the portal, or you can always go to modernmortgagesummit.com to get access as well. So it's 12:01 my time, Phil. That makes it 3:01 your time. On behalf of myself and Deborah and all of the folks, the 400 plus who joined us, and those will be watching the recording, I just want to say thank you. Super grateful for your time, for your knowledge, your willingness to share, sharpen, especially when you already had a different commitment. It means a lot to us.
It's been a pleasure to be here, and my invitation in closing words to everybody is enjoy the opportunity. What I hope that we've shared with you today is that you've just reached a level of conscious incompetence, right? And if we follow the 7 habits and see what we learn from Stephen Covey, is you go from being unconsciously incompetent, right, to then consciously incompetent, and then you can reach levels of conscious competence, and then you can be unconsciously competent. I've got to unconscious competence on this because it's been my body of work for over 20 years. Is if you want to access bonus levels, firstly say, hey, I'm not as good as I thought I was. Let me learn some new skills, then put those skills into practice, and then grow your own level of competence through repetition. But it doesn't mean that what you've been doing isn't working. It means that you've just raised your level of performance and you're starting to play in bonus levels. And what this marketplace now needs more than any other time is it means people who are prepared to play at pro level. So look to see how you can elevate your skills to pro level. Todd and Deb can help you do that in conversations. And I'd urge you to do it in every other area of your life too.
I can't top that. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you being around. Thanks, Phil. Looking forward to hanging out with you for a couple days next week in New York. I appreciate you all. Any questions, just DM Deborah. We would love to help you be more valuable to your clients, be more valuable to your real estate partners, have better conversations at home and with your team. And this call is a wrap. Thanks again, everyone. We'll see you soon.
See ya.